Hello, welcome back to the Narconon and Scientology Chronicles channel. I'm Lucas Catton. And from time to time, I have various people that reach out to me who used to be involved, whether I knew them or didn't know them, but were somehow connected to Narconon or Scientology. And I love to hear from people. So that's always, usually, it's very refreshing. And it's great to have conversations with them, those that go beyond some email or some messages, but sometimes we'll have, have more of a chat. And recently, somebody had done that and said, "Hey, do you remember me?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. I remember this person from when he worked at one of the organizations that I used to take courses at. When I was involved with that." And so it'd been a long time, obviously, since we'd seen each other, but it was kind of funny. So we talked, and during that conversation, we were talking about various people that we knew commonly and who was still in, who was not, that sort of thing. And it reminded me of running into a couple people locally in Atlanta that I had known from both the Narconon and the Church of Scientology in Atlanta years ago. And I had run into a couple of these people fairly recently, like within the past few years. Certainly since everything has shaken out, since Narconon in Georgia was shut down, and since the newer empty Scientology Ideal Org opened up in Atlanta. So we talked about these things, and I shared that. So I wanted to share actually the story of running into a couple of these people in public. And I had another conversation with someone where we laughed about how Scientology has this course. It's called the PTSSP course, potential trouble source, and that's people who are connected to SPs or suppressive people. And I'm definitely one of those SPs. As you look back, I talked about how I became a suppressive person. Maybe I'll share that video at the end of this. But it was kind of funny. So when they're supposed to be able to confront and shatter suppression, and you go through this whole long course, and you got to do all these different things, and it's really ridiculous, especially looking back on it. But it's funny because when you run into true believers today in public, they run away from you. They don't. I was prepared for like potentially an argument or a public display of anger or something like that from them, and it wasn't. It was the opposite. I was willing to have a very open, casual conversation, and the first one, I'll do the first one. I was in a grocery store, and I spotted this guy, and he must have seen me. I knew he saw me because I looked up and he looked up, and all of a sudden he like left the aisle, and then I went down. I started playing with him because I knew that he saw me. So I was going around the grocery store, like at the opposite ends of the aisles, sort of trying to meet where he was, and he would just casually like change directions, and like if he was going to go buy some cereal, then all of a sudden he'd leave the cereal aisle if I pulled in there, or if he was going to go to like the produce section, then he would immediately turn around and go the other direction from the produce section, as if he just suddenly remembered, oh wait, I forgot something on the other aisle. And so we played this little cat and mouse game for, I don't know, 5 minutes. It wasn't that long, but it was funny and sad at the same time, because here was this guy, I'm obviously not trying to do anything to him in public or anything like that. And I get it that he certainly didn't have to talk to me for anything, but he wouldn't even acknowledge my presence, and was afraid to do so. Like that was very clear that he was afraid to be around me. So the other person is much more significant, that I wanted to share, both in the Atlanta area as well. This other person, you may recall stories about Mary Reeser. Mary Reeser is a longtime Scientologist who was the founder and executive director of Narconon of Georgia. And she's also the person whom Judge Stacey Heydrich issued orders, sanctions against her in the civil suit against her for a wrongful death case for Patrick Desmond, and found that she was lying and was uncredible. And they issued heavy sanctions against Narconon of Georgia that were very serious. And in that, she talks about how Mary had specifically lied to the court and was an uncredible witness. So I, like, fast forward to a few years after that, I had opened, with some other people, I'd opened another actual legitimate treatment center, and it was an outpatient program. And I went to CVS and I was buying some supplies, and and I was standing. I got in line and I had, I don't know, like a case of water and some paper or something like that. And I looked up, and there's Mary Reeser, and she's talking to the guy in front of me in line. And so my heart started beating a little fast because this was a much more serious confrontation potentially. And and so I was waiting patiently, and I was thinking, okay, I'd love to have a conversation with her, or at least say hi and see how she's doing now, to see, was there a chance that she had possibly left, or what was going on. And that wasn't the case. She looked over the shoulder of this guy, saw me, and literally bolted out the door. Like, she cut off almost mid-sentence, saw me, and turned around and bolted out the door to a point where she wouldn't have to face me. And it was like, I honestly started laughing in line because I couldn't understand how she would be that afraid to just be around me in public when every other person in CVS was around me just fine in public. I don't know if it was just because she knew that I was a big bad SP, or if if it was all the other stuff that I knew she was caught lying, and I called her out on those lies, in the media, and with the attorneys helping them. It was so ridiculous that happened. And I wish I could have caught that on video, because it really would have been funny to see someone bolt like that. Now, if you asked her, I'm sure she'd be like, "Oh, I don't remember that," or I never saw him," or something like that. But I'm telling you, it was obvious. It was really weird behavior, and so that's honestly what happens. I remember having a conversation with somebody else who lives in Clearwater, who's probably one of the most well-known SPs in Clearwater. And he was saying the same thing. He was like, "No, they literally turn around and run the other way when they see me coming. Nobody wants to have a conversation or anything like that. They're deathly afraid that somehow I'll share some truth with them that they can't absorb, and that kind of thing." So that's the reality of what happens nowadays when you're an SP and you run into a Scientologist in public, is they don't know how to communicate. They run away in fear. And I hope that as more people leave, as this gentleman who contacted me recently, as more people leave, reach out, love to have a conversation with, if not with me, somebody else who who used to be involved. This is very helpful. It's helpful for them. It's helpful for you. It's part of the healing process for many people in terms of recovering from trauma associated being with that. And, hopefully people like the guy that I saw in the grocery store, and people like Mary Reeser, one day they'll be out also, and maybe we can have some healing conversations then as well. So that's I know I've been a little absent this summer. It's been a busy summer, thankfully, and I'll try and get some more stories up soon. Until then, I'm Lucas Catton for Narconon and Scientology Chronicles. Take care.